Welcome. Welcome to the EcoStruxure IT Expert learning session. My name is Chi Sen, and I'm responsible for the digital services and software business at Schneider Electric. And I'll be your host for today's session. As you can see from the video, technology is used everywhere. In schools, in enterprises, in government, in mission-critical infrastructures. And in the case of this school, the Bainbridge District School, Alan, our customer, his number one priority is to ensure that the IT infrastructure remains always on, so that education to the children is never disrupted. However, Alan has a very big challenge. He has a huge compound of 11 buildings and 9 schools with compute distributed over this huge environment. And he has very little resources, very little manpower to help him to monitor his IT infrastructure. So Alan leveraged on Schneider Electric's EcoStruxure IT Expert solution to help him automate the monitoring of his IT infrastructure and predicting potential failures. Over the last few years, over the last 10 years, the data center environment has been evolving rapidly. With emergence in new technologies, our customers are moving their on-premise applications to the cloud and some to the edge. And now the industry calls this hybrid IT. So today, we will discuss how the use of cloud-based software together with deep machine learning technology can simplify the management of hybrid IT environment. So now, let me introduce the speakers. Kim Povson, Vice President and General Manager of the Digital Services and Software Division, and Mr. Neha Patari, Vice President of Information and Communication Technology at 63 Moons Technologies. About Kim. Kim's bold idea is to help the IT executives to resolve the challenge of manpower. And his bold idea is to bring work-life balance back to IT professionals. Kim loves to travel. And whenever he travels, he will look for the best coffee shops in the country. So if you have some coffee shops to recommend him, he will love your recommendation. Neha's bold idea is to make any processes simpler. And Neha loves to work with his people, understanding their problems at work, and he will fold up his sleeves to help them resolve these problems. A bit about Neha. He told me he loves to cook. And back at home, he is well known for his Indian fusion cuisine. So if you see him dressed up as a Michelin star chef, don't be surprised. All right. So now that I've introduced the speakers, let me invite Kim on stage to take the presentation. Kim.
Thank you so much, Jisen. Hello, everyone. And hey, it's true, I do love good coffee. And when you present at 5:45, you need coffee. A lot of it. So allow me to start by actually presenting some pretty horrifying numbers. Did you know that 35% of IT professionals tells us that they're missing out on social functions with their family because of their job? 25% of IT professionals are experiencing stress-related illness. And another 24% actually see damage or failure in their relationships due to their job. And that really tells us one thing: they have way too much to do and too little time. Now, this survey is actually 4 years old. And let me tell you, the trend in the market and what has happened in the market over the last 4 years are not making things any better. You might remember, I recognize some of you, and you might remember the days where everything was a centralized enterprise data center. So in the last 4 years, and even a bit more than that, we've seen a massive push to the cloud, the co-locators, we have the regional edge, and we have a massive rise these days on the local edge. Think retail, education systems, banks, ATMs, and so forth. So things are becoming way more complex than actually used to be, right? Now, within all these changes, the only thing that really remains a constant is that the IT staff remains the same, right? Things are getting harder, and I talked to a lot of you guys today, and I hear the same things coming from you. IT staff is the same, but the complexity is growing. And at the end of the day, all we all want to try to do here is to be successful in managing our IT infrastructure, because risk is at the top of the agenda, and we need to make sure nothing breaks down. So it's actually a pretty simple equation, if you like. If you want to be successful, you take your number of IT staff and you divide it with the complexity. Now, as I mentioned, the IT staff is a constant. It's not going to change. We're not going to get much more money to do stuff like this and hire more people. And we can't really turn on the success because, of course, we need to be successful. So the only thing you can really do anything about is to bring the complexity down. So bringing the complexity down, well, how do we do that? First thing we do, we talk to you. We talk to our customers. We talk to our partners. And we try to understand how we can help better. And just myself, being so fortunate that over the last year, I've been meeting, talking to, and learning from more than 150 customers and partners. And when you talk to that many, you start to see some patterns. You start to understand what is the real problems they're dealing with, and you start to be able to come up with some solutions that can actually help you to do better. And 150 customers and partners, what happens is that you hear a lot of quite interesting stories. I'm going to share a few with you. There's this one guy I met. You know, when he goes to sleep at night, what he does is he takes out his smartphone, right? So he plugs in his earphones, put them in his ears, turns up the volume to the maximum, and he puts it under his pillow. So every time he gets an email during night, he wakes up and looks at that email to see if it might be a critical thing happening in his data center. And if it looks like something critical, he gets up, logs into VPN on his laptop, and he sees this as something serious, usually not, thankfully, and then he goes back to sleep. Another gentleman I met, he brings his laptop everywhere he goes. He takes it to his kids' soccer practice, he takes it to the grocery shopping, and he told me even once he took his laptop, brought it to a wedding. Not his own wedding, thank God, right? But he took it to a wedding, and that's pretty serious. Now, no wonder these guys are a little bit stressed when you have to do these kind of things. So after talking and learning and really trying to figure out what can we do to help alleviate these challenges, we learned that it really boils down to two things. You need proper visibility, and you need true insights. Before you can get to insights, which is really the holy grail of all these things, you need to have great visibility. So let's talk about that first. Over the course of years, we've been developing a number of different monitoring solutions. And if you go way back, and you had your first data centers, there were no proper monitoring solutions. And I can't even imagine how you manage anything back then. Then you got local monitoring, because at the beginning you just had one single data center, but then things started to get a bit more distributed. So then it became quite cumbersome to have a local monitoring system. Then we got VPN networks, so at least you could log in and see what was going on across your network, but you need that network, distributed network, to be connected. You need to have an infrastructure that actually worked, so you can do that. And you need your laptop with you everywhere. Back to these guys we just talked about. But in the last couple of years, the massive technology development there has been in the cloud has really helped us taking this to another level as well. So we can leverage from all these great things and do something that is really, really smart because of cloud-based technology. So suddenly we can go mobile, right? So suddenly you can see everything that goes on, everywhere you are. You can do everything from your mobile right there. No VPN, you don't have to bring your laptop. These things become super simple suddenly. And even more interesting, when you have thousands of data centers connected to a single cloud, you start building a data lake. And when you start building a data lake, you can start learning from what is actually happening. You can see all the alarms coming in. You can start to define patterns, predict things. And at that point in time, you can start to see what alarms coming in that are really important and which alarms are not important. And you can start consolidating these alarms because they might happen at all more or less at the same time or at the same place. So that means you can start putting them together to a single thing instead of a lot. Smart alarms is really when we start telling you which alarms matters to you and which are not really critical. So you can only focus on the ones that make sense. And with this type of technology, at this point in time, I can tell you that we've been able to decrease the number of alarms that happens in the data centers that actually goes through to you on your smartphone or your web system by 76%. That's 3 out of 4 alarms that you no longer have to look at because they're not important, they're just noise. And this is what you can do when you have big data. Now, where we want to go is predictive alarms. And we're getting there very fast. So imagine this. You get an alarm on your smartphone. It tells you something that didn't even happen yet. But then you can take action and fix it before it actually occurs. Then the risk goes away, right? The heart rate goes down, get more calm, and less stress in general. Please allow me to invite Nihar Patare from 63 Moons to the stage.
Okay.
One of our customers that is a very early technology adopter that's been trying out all these things for a while, and looking forward to hear what he has to say about these things. Thank you, Patare.
Thank you. 63 Moons technology was formerly called as Financial Technologies. It's a 20-year-old company. I head the IT, and I'm responsible for the entire IT operation, the data center, and the installation across our data center across the world. We have been a global leader in providing banking and financial softwares for broking, exchanges, and trading. We have built multi-class exchanges in India, Singapore, Dubai, and Africa. We also operate one of the largest financial distribution networks in India. Some key figures, we have more than 1 million licenses sold for our trading platform, around 1,300 employees. We have been always focused on the financial well-being of markets. These are the new greenfield ventures that we started right around 10 years back. Multi-Commodity Exchange of India, the largest commodity exchange in the country, right here in Singapore, the Singapore Mercantile Exchange. India's first energy exchange where electricity is traded. That's the IEX, and the gold and commodity exchange in Dubai. So in the year 2016, Financial Technologies was renamed as 63 Moons Technologies. This is because we wanted to adapt ourselves to the new disruptive digital era. Yeah, we were now also focusing on 12 different segments like space, aviation, agri-tech, SMAC, IoT, education, and healthcare. We would like to get our resilient software also to these areas. A few key facts. We have been successfully given 100%, close to 100% dividend quarter on quarter for the last 38 quarters. We have created more than 1 million direct and indirect jobs in the country in the last 20 years and paid close to around $250 million in tax. These are some of the product suites that we use in the financial market. This is for the brokers and the broking segments. This is for the exchanges. The commodity exchanges use these softwares, and the clearing houses, the depositories, and the banks. So this is what it takes to keep the lights on in our data center. Yeah, we have 158 server racks, 3 chillers for chilling the entire data center, 6 UPSs which cater to around 1.2 megawatt of electricity, a few netbot systems to manage and take all the reading, and around 30 power distribution units. We also have a few non-IoT devices like water leakage detection, VESDA, and rodent repellent. So this is the NOC. We have a 70-seater NOC at our premises, which used to earlier run in 3 shifts. This is the heart where we monitor the entire DC. Thank you.
So do you mind if I ask you a couple of questions?
Sure.
All right, let's have a seat.
Yeah, okay.
So Nihar, when I met you the first time,
Yeah.
I remember I had one question on my mind I didn't really dare to ask, but I'm betting a lot of people in the audience have the same questions that I did. So why 63 moons?
Oh, that's a question that I get asked a lot. 63 moons comes from the planet Jupiter, which has 63 moons. And this 63 moons revolve around the planet in a complete sync. So this is what we bring to the market now. With our new technology, we would like to create a digital ecology of our various functions to move around a customer and the new ideas or startups.
That's pretty smart. So I understood you're doing trading in your data center, right? So the stock exchange and so on are using your data center to do this. So that means you have to be extremely low latency,
Correct.
and it must be a high availability data center.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about managing a data center like that. There must be some sort of fear for that data center going down ever.
Yeah, if you see the scale of our operations, it's huge. Yeah, we have somewhere around 70% of India's market share on the softwares that we sell. Not only the customers, but if you see anything which goes down on the software, we believe it would have a large repercussion also on the economy.
So I bet a lot of people in here know the importance of continuity of the data center, because more and more businesses out there are really reliant on the data center. Like if the data center goes down, the business goes down as well. I think we can all recognize that need. So we have a nice picture here of your NOC.
Yes.
A lot of people in there. So can you talk a little bit about staffing? I mentioned a bit before that we hear a lot of things about staffing is a challenge, getting the talent, retaining the talent. But now you've been using some of these digital services and software for a while.
Yes.
How does that impact your view on staffing?
The staffing in a data center is not a university-grown product. You don't. It's not like a software engineer which comes out of a university and you deploy him and starts making software. You have certain engineers who like to monitor, learn, develop, understand the systems, a bit of electricity, a bit of networks, and this is how you grow. Filling a NOC with 3 shifts was a real pain. That's when we looked at DCIM, went in for that, and when we also outsourced our services 24/7 in the night shift to Schneider, we could then move the night shift completely off and put those staff in other areas. But as you see, this is a constant change. The new regulations in India, the equity exchange is now going to start from 6 hours to 12 hours. Yeah, this starts from a month from now. What would happen is the staff that had taken off is re-provided when the market times goes up.
So instead of hiring more staff, you were able to use some digital services that allowed you to free up some staff to do other things. Okay. So we saw the size of your data center, what keeps the lights on, as you said. And I would put this in a box of what we can call a mid-sized enterprise data center. You agree with that? Yeah. Tell me a little bit about what you see as a future of data centers in your perspective, in your type of business. Are you seeing everything being centralized, or are you seeing more distributed future, or something in between? What is your take on that?
We see that the journey to the cloud is a go. It's not now, but in the future. Till we go in the future, we have also migrated a lot of services to the cloud, but there are some services that we still hold on because of regulations, and sometimes close to your heart, you like to monitor them. While going to the cloud, that has a lot of advantages that we see. It's something like we don't have to do any patch management. Right now, on-prem services, you have to take a downtime. We have close to around 7-8 companies. Taking a downtime through all of them is very difficult. So the patch management, upgradation goes on the cloud. The asset management that we do is automatically taken care. The monitoring part, my team then relaxes a bit and does the core job instead of running around.
Understood. Okay. So last thing, by chance, I have a slide of some of the screenshots from the EcoStruxure IT product.
Yeah.
This is the app.
Yes.
I know you've been using this for a while.
Absolutely.
Interesting to hear and have everybody hear a bit about your experience using this. What do you see here that you might be a different experience from when you were using purely on-prem type products?
This app gives us a complete different insight, which was not there in the legendary DC AMP solution. We could actually pinpoint, gradually get into each of the crack units, the PDUs, and check everything online. As we talked just a while ago, we had an alarm getting cleared by the central lock of yours. And this is what gives us a complete satisfaction smile. This is what I look at when I get up in the morning, that everything's working fine. Yeah, this is very close, and I use it often. You see on the last screen, you have the reporting of the engineers. It's real time. Although my team is working there, any problem which happens, the Schneider knock reports, says which is the engineer, what's the cell phone number, what they talked. Instead of calling me back home in India at odd hours, I see them what's happening. And once it's closed, I'm happy with the smiley.
Thank you so much, Nia.
Thank you
for joining.
Sure.
All right, so that was visibility. Let's talk a little bit about insights. So insights is when you have a deep knowledge and understanding of your IT infrastructure. It's when you know in depth what kind of capacity you need in any sense on the power, on the IT, and in the space in general. It's not when you know what capacity you need right now and what capacity you need in the future. That's really the next steps of things. And this is not new to us in Schneider, given we've been the leading provider of DSIM for more than 10 years. However, just as I said with visibility and monitoring, there's a whole new thing happening using the technology of the cloud. So again, if we take a look at what you can do on-prem today, you have an incident, something happens, you have a critical fault of some sort. You're able to capture all the data in your data center itself and try to understand what you can run a number of diagnostic and analytical tools on your data center and try to find out why it happened, and then you can do, of course, everything in your power to make sure it never happens again. Now, again, back to the big data story, where you have tons of data coming from thousands of data centers into a data lake, where you can build trend-based analysis, find patterns. You start to be able to figure out what will happen. When will I run out of capacity? What does that mean to me? And that's where we are today. Close to say, not only will you know what will happen, but you will also know what are your options. So imagine coming in at work tomorrow morning, and you get a message that this will happen. You will run out of capacity, and you may have this critical alarm. And we suggest you do this, 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 or this in order to alleviate that challenge. How nice would that be? Huh? So again, taking things to the next level on the cloud, we're able to do that. However, I want to mention one point. Just having a cloud-based solution is not enough. If you want to do big data analytics and machine learning, you really need big data. You really need big data, and you need a lot, because you need a lot of things, and it takes time, it takes a lot of data, and it takes a lot of skills and domain knowledge to actually build these machine learning algorithms that are going to predict these things. And at this point in time, this very point in time, we're actually collecting 300 million data points every single day, coming from 140,000 assets shared amongst 1,400 customers. So that's about 100 assets per customer, which is pretty much what we saw from Nihar just before. Now, let me give you an example of a customer that are using these kind of tools to really help them alleviate all these challenges up front before they happen. This is a huge US retail store that are using the product EcoStruxure Asset Advisor, and they have 2,300 stores spread across US. Now, using this type of services and predictive analytics, they've actually been able to have or improve the store stability by 82%. 82% more store stability. These stores, they have a UPS each to take care of the cash registers, the back-end IT. And now with this type of service, 82% better stability. That's a big deal. The average UPS faults they have went from 70 to 10 overall. That's another 85% improvement on what they're seeing. And probably most important of all, 3,600 hours of labor is saved. That is personnel on site that use time in the back room, roll up the sleeves, trying to fix these things. They can actually go back, serve customers, and improve the business they're working in. 3,600 hours, that's 2 man-years of work. That's a big deal, right? That's a big impact. So, what we learned pretty well and pretty quickly when we put these things together is that every single customer out there, every single partner out there works in different ways. So we built this whole architecture of EcoStruxure IT to really give everybody the power of choice. How do you want to work with this kind of thing? So, a lot of our customers want to do things themselves. They have an IT staff, sometimes just one person, sometimes a whole crew. They want to manage everything themselves. So what we do is we give them all the analytics, all the monitoring capabilities, everything we got, they get it. All the right tools to manage everything themselves as efficiently as possible. And those are the products called EcoStruxure IT Expert and IT Advisor. What we also learned is that a lot of our customers, they have partners. They have the managed service providers, system integrators, could be part of a colo. So what we do is that we give them a full set of tools as well, so they can help the enterprise data center customers actually understand which actionable insights can they help the customers solving, run assessments to really see snapshot which batteries need to be replaced, which UPSs are in need of support or maintenance, all these kind of things, so we can have some sort of these two helping each other. And that's what we call EcoStruxure IT for partners. Now, in Niha's case that we just saw, we have the Schneider Electric Service Bureau. 24/7 support, remote support to your data center, calls you up if you have a critical incident. It can be during night, if you want to do it yourself during the day. They can also call your partner if that's what you like. So that's what we call Asset Advisor. And finally, if you really want to focus on your core business, we can actually go in and manage your entire data center. That's what we call, facility operations. Now, what I think is important to mention is that you can mix and match these as much as you want. You can do it yourself completely. You can have Schneider to do it completely for you. You can have something in between. And I invite you. I'm going to leave my bunch of cards up here. And if you find something in here that doesn't match your needs, you let me know, because then we're going to figure it out. So please, go meet Bernard, Calvin, and Martin at the booth. Right? It's getting late, but again tomorrow, and they're going to show you all of this and what it's all about. All this is live. It's running right out there, and we can show you how it works. Thank you, everybody.
So now it's time for questions. All right, questions. So I was with some of the audience just now, and one of the questions that I keep getting asked by some of the audience is pertaining to cybersecurity. Because we are talking about a cloud-based software that is used to simplify the management of hybrid IT environments. So how do we address the concern on cybersecurity? So that's the first question. And I thought it would be great to ask my customer, Niha, to give us his idea about this. Niha.
Yeah. Being in the financial domain, security is very, very dear to us. We have a separate department which is only focused on security of onboarding vendors. So whenever we take a service which is from the cloud, we do have a team which does pen tests and vulnerability assessment and checks out the software completely. Checks out the regulations, because we are also answerable to the government in the country. We cannot afford any security lapse from any of our service provider. So it's a known name in the industry in India. When 63 Moon certifies a software, a lot of the broker and financial institute gives a thumbs up, and they go blindly with the software. That's how we select a software. So if we have onboarded EcoStruxure IT, we have done a thorough test that we can assure you.
I like that. I like that answer. Thank you so much. Can I request some questions from the audience? Come on. Someone must have a question. We have the mic. The mic will go to you. You don't have to stand up. Don't worry. Please ask the question.
So, is it on? Question for Kim. Related to the cybersecurity question, can you give us a little bit of insight about what we do to protect the security of the data going from the customer's environment into the cloud, please?
Absolutely. So the question is, what do we do from day to day to ensure that we are proficiently cyber secure? So I can answer that, yes. So there's a lot of things that goes on top of each other that you have to do. First thing is that in our development team, everybody has a background check, right? It's a secure facility that they work in that you do not get into unless if you have that background check. How much? 15% of our actual developers are educated white hat hackers. So they're always trying to penetrate our own system as soon as we do any type of new release. We also have a penetration testing third-party provider that continuously penetrating testing everything we do, and if everything comes up, we fix it immediately. We're moving towards getting ISO 27001 certification. There's a lot of steps to get there, and we're getting there pretty fast, which is kind of the one stamp you can get that you're extremely cyber secure. And very, very few data centers out there today have that specific ISO 27001 certification.
Thank you, Kim. That was a good answer. More questions? Yes, the gentleman there.
As you're building up your base of knowledge in terms of the information that you're gathering on the predictive set, how long do you think that's going to take to sort of before you can get a level of accuracy that you're comfortable with?
Can you repeat the question?
So
I think maybe can you repeat the question again?
Yeah, so you're gathering data for the predictive analytics, 130,000 assets, whatever it is, number of data points per day. How long do you think it's going to be before you get a level of accuracy that you're happy with in terms of what you're predicting versus the reality?
Thank you. So the question is, we've been collecting a lot of data, and this data pool obviously grows significantly every single day. So how long time is going to take before we actually get very precise on the predictive analytics? And the answer is, we have enough data now to do it. Now, the good question is, how long time does it take to train the machine learning algorithms to actually be able to do it? And it depends on the specific case, I want to say. Not to give you a bad answer, but it depends on a specific case. What you do there is you do domain-specific algorithms per thing. You start by, for example, you start with UPSs, and you go really deep. You understand the batteries, you understand the power modules, and the capacitors when you want to do things about these, right? So you go very deep, and you train these algorithms for a couple of months. They get continuously more accurate. Unfortunately, this is what happens. You see a failure happening in the field. That's a disaster, that's bad when it happens, but it's actually the best thing that can happen if you want to train a pattern. Because you need to see something go bad, and then you can backtrace and see, okay, this is kind of what happens. And then you train the algorithm at a certain point in time, you know. So I'm sorry, but it's really about the case. Some things are very simple to do, it takes weeks. Some other things, they take months. We are having the first predictive things in here already by now. We can do batteries on UPSs, and we could do live predictions on UPSs as well. That's something we can do already now. Now we're moving on to cooling and all kinds of other stuff as well. So we're getting there pretty fast.
Yeah, no, it was really asking a question because I appreciate what you said in terms of you're not really going to know until you see all those parameters around a UPS failure, as an example. And with a number of components that make up a UPS unit, there are all sorts of different things that could trigger that failure at that point, right? So it was really to try and get, and there's levels of precision, of course, and perfection's probably unwarranted, but it was that sort of, okay, what have you got now? What do you think it's going to be like in a year, 2 years, 3 years, etc. So Thank you.
So what do we have now, and how it's going to look in 1, 2, 3 years? Very good question. So what we have now is it is what we will call it early predictive analytics, right? If you think about, I'll take the example of a UPS. So there is a kind of a ladder. There is what I showed you before, which is you do statistical analysis, trying to understand what happens. Step 2 is what we call condition-based analysis, and then there's true predictive analysis. Condition-based, you look at all the parameters of a UPS, you learn over time what it looks like, and you're able to say, this UPS or these batteries are in green mode, they're doing great. They're in yellow mode, you should have a look. They're in red mode, you're going to have a problem. So you have a look at it, right? And that's where we are right now. In a year, 2, 3, we're going to be able to say, these capacitors in UPS, they're going to fail in 2 months, and that's going to have this impact to what you're doing. So we're maybe 6 months, 1 year away from being that precise. Simply takes time to train these patterns and see that happen before you can actually do it. Good enough?
I mean, I work with JLL, so we service a lot of these types of equipment. We obviously work with yourselves a lot. We've got several thousand pieces of kit under management. That sort of thing happens. We do condition-based assessments. The clients still never believe you. And so one fails and they say, well, that's an anomaly. Then another one fails and say, oh yeah, maybe we should do something about it. How many else do we have on the list? But it is going to take that type of recognition and understanding before there's sort of an implicit faith in the platform and the system for people to be able to say, yep, okay, this is telling us you've got to do something in 6 months because it's going to fail in 12 or something like that, and it is actually realistic. Because the thing that's always sort of thrown back against, particularly a company like Schneider is, but you're just trying to sell equipment. Of course, you're going to say it's going to fail in 6 months because you want to sell me another UPS unit, right? So that's how it goes.
That's fair. That's fair.
Question?
Thank you. So, Kim, we've been talking about UPS crack units. What about IT equipment?
What about IT? I think the question is, we've been talking about UPS crack units. What about IT equipment? What is our take on IT equipment?
So something really interesting, and I can't talk too much about it. We're having some patents pending on these type of technologies, but when you start to look into the servers and the network also, just from a power perspective, you can actually learn some really interesting things. So there's a lot of protocols emerging in the market. One is called Redfish, supported by Intel and HP and Dell are doing it. And that's where you're able to read data and the CPU utilization, the temperatures, the load, and everything from a server. That means when you can have these kind of protocols, you can bundle what you learn and what you know about the critical infrastructure and add the servers as well. That helps you to actually, when you predict a potential failure in a UPS, you can also say which type of servers or which of your servers might be impacted by these things. That's pretty powerful. And these technologies is something we actually have in the platform today. So you're able to find your servers as well and do some smart things around them while just basically as well monitoring them. Not the applications, because we only know the bottom layer of the cake, which is the temperatures, the loads, and so on.
Thank you. We probably have time for one last question. I think that the gentleman there was, can we bring the mic over?
Okay, I was impressed by quantity of the reports and alarms. We are getting something like 144,000 per day. Was it something mentioned? And you have 1,400 operators to manage this data.
So sorry. So let me go back to the right
slide like that. All day we are talking about the data. Okay. I'm always 140,000. I'm not wrong. Huh?
Yes. So this is the number of data points coming in every day.
Every day.
Yeah. This is the number of assets we have under management.
Okay.
So that's like 140,000 UPSs,
yes,
including crack units and so on.
Kim, it's astronomical
figure. It is.
What is a probability that you are not making error in analyzing this, okay? Because 1,400, I'm sorry, I don't see connection, connected customers, okay? How many operators you have and how your software is built to make sure that nothing is passing through this network. You understand? Because you have points reported and assets under management. Imagine that something is going wrong. How many alarms you are handling per day?
Ooh. How many alarms are we handling per day?
And how you are controlling that? Yeah?
It's a good question. I have to get back on you how many alarms we're actually handling today. Now let me mention something. A lot of these customers have the do-it-yourself solution, so they're managing their own alarms. And
Yes.
as I mentioned earlier, we're by now able to consolidate alarms, so you only see 1 out of 4 alarms by this point in time. So the number of alarms coming into the system is no longer the same number of alarms that goes out to the customer or the user. It's divided by 4. Right? That's one point. So we have the service bureaus, as we call them, who are managing calls, calling out the customers. A subset of these customers are using that service. And there we have a 24/7 call center in the US, one in the UK, one in France, one in India at this point in time. So it's 24/7 coverage in all these cases. And of course, we man up when necessary. When more customer comes up, we man up to be able to manage the load. Absolutely.
Impressive.
Thank you.